G'day, mate. You ready for our next guest?
I think so.
Well, it's a really exciting one tonight because he's a rags to riches story. Actually, aren't you? Are you a rags to riches story?
Nah, it's sort of probably.
Hang on, I'm not ready for you yet. Now, I know you've been very critical of my opening, so I'm going to be tuned. I'm just going to cut through tonight. So you're talking about, I think from the entertainment industry globally, it's the hardest role in the world is to go through the stand-up route. Stand-up route to stardom. Are you a star? Yeah, absolutely. That's true. So you're talking about a guy that is in New Zealand born and bred. He's come through comedy. He's come through stand-up. And now he's undoubtedly the king of the airwaves.
And not a bad little cricketer.
And he's a good... Now, I've got to tell you this. Not many people know this. Di, you're a... Sorry, it's Di Henwood.
He's sitting right there. I'm right here.
It's starting to get awkward.
Di, you're a passionate cricketer and you love your last man standing. Could you tell me what's the greatest caught and bowled you've ever seen in the last man standing?
Oh, here we go. It's a leading question, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, it is. I don't know where he's leading me.
Just answer it honestly.
I fucking can't believe it. I've practiced that all day today. I only played one game with you.
Oh yeah, no, that was pretty amazing. All I'd see, the thing I only failed. I just think of a failed caught and bowled where there's a guy here, Mikey, who hit a ball back and knocked a guy's teeth out.
Oh.
And that whenever someone says caught and bowled, that's all that's the only thing that comes to mind.
Di Henwood.
Yeah.
Everybody, Di Henwood.
Yay!
So welcome, Di. It's I have to say, cricket. This is something we have in common. You're a competitive cricketer, aren't you?
Yeah. Since when I started out, I always thought sports was going to be my role in life. Cricket and rugby. I grew up playing since I was 5 and played both representative. Played for Mana in cricket, weirdly.
Mana?
Yeah.
Where is Mana?
Mana's like, it's the one just outside of Wellington. Well, if you can't make the Wellington team, you're a gun opening bowler for Mana. So I played for Mana and I played rep rugby for Wellington because I was this size. I was 70 kgs and 5'5" when I was 12 years old. So I was like the big unit. And so I was playing like under 16 reps when I was like 12-year-old, and then all the Polynesian boys like just turned into massive trees, and I stayed the same. Slowly went from centre through to halfback, then just got sick of being knocked out. So flagged it and got into comedy. But still, cricket's something. I don't know whether it's just the passive-aggressive New Zealand nature in me, but cricket's such a good banter sport.
I remember I got invited along to play a game of indoor cricket, and these guys, they've got their own comedy sort of indoor cricket team. It's quite a competitive...
It's named, we tried to name it like an IPL side. It's called the Twangadelli Super Soakers.
But it's the only, because there's quite a lot of sledging goes on in indoor cricket generally.
It's pretty intense,
but it was the only game of indoor cricket where the opposition just weren't game. It was like, you could just see they were all just sitting there. They wanted to say something, but there was just like, you know, because there's Jesse Griffin and like Di and Ben Hurley, all these guys. And so they're all just, the opposition's all just sitting thinking, if I say one line out and it's gonna get hurt, I'm going to get hurt here. It was hilarious.
But no, cricket, I think, is quite a mix between cricket and comedians. A lot of comics are into cricket. And I remember I was over in with Jesse Griffin. You mentioned he plays Wilson Dixon. It's a sort of like a country music character, and he actually goes and does country music festivals. And we were over in the UK in that 2006 bombing, was it? Around 2006, 2007, there was the London bombings with the tubes. And we were both on the tube while that was happening.
Really?
Going from South London up to North London. And then we ended up finding this other Aussie comic, Kitty Flanagan, who was away, when we went and holed up in her flat. and just drunk cases and cases of beers and watched the Ashes while all the sort of fallout from the bombing, because we couldn't get back to our spots. And we formed a massive bond over that. And then, suddenly just discovered all these comedians are into cricket.
You made a comment at the infancy there, just saying, I went from rugby, I started playing comedy. I started doing comedy. Yeah. How the hell do you get into comedy? Because you got to be fearless. Fearless.
Comedy's something you. It's that hard thing, as everyone goes, oh, I'm the funny guy at the party, or I know someone who's funny at the party, and I have so many people say that to me, going, oh, my mate should do stand up, and you can only know if you can do stand up by doing it.
Yeah.
So it's full baptism of fire. You get up, and like I got up. 1997 I first did it, so I was like 18, I think I was, and it was like a comedy competition up in Auckland. I'm from Wellington, and came up and did it, and it wasn't. Ewan Gilmore was hosting it, and he said, you got some talent, you should keep doing it.
Yeah.
And
how scared were you?
Oh, just so freaked out. Like I knew from when I was young, when I was 5 years old, I made people laugh, and I don't quite know why. And the feeling it gave me was I knew I always wanted to make people laugh.
So you were the guy at the party, but?
Yeah. And I was like the sort of the class clown, that sort of thing. And my old man was in a sitcom called Gliding On over here, which was New Zealand's longest running sitcom. Yeah. And I used to get up before school and just watch the VHS, like the videos of that, and just sort of memorise lines and delivery, and Monty Python records and Eddie Murphy. We had the Eddie Murphy Delirious tape when he was in his suit. We had it recorded, and me and my mate just listened to it over and over and over. But then came up and did it, and it's so stressful. Yeah. There's nothing, because I always reckon that comedy is the most honest art form, because you can go to a play, or you can go to like an art exhibition, and you can watch it, and then you can just talk shit and go, yeah, that was a woman. But you can't fake laughing for an hour. You can't fake laughing, so you know whether you're doing well or not, and every single bit is sort of.
What's your mate's name?
Immediate feedback. Which one?
The one that we went to watch.
James Stewart. Do you remember? Have you ever seen James Stewart? So I don't know if he's still doing it or not, but so James does a bit of art and stuff for us.
He's amazing. I actually did some. He was doing some drawings for me, like.
So he's an incredible artist, but he also does a little bit of stand up. He's not on.
He's quite a diversive comic as well.
So we go to this little box, and there's only about 12 or 24 seats or something, and so from the first joke that comes in, and it's quite obscure. It's quite a particular taste, but I'd taken Mick along, and so Mick sitting in there with only 20 people in this, and the second joke in, Mick just roars with laughter. Anyway, at the end of the show, and the whole place just lit up, and from that point on, he never looked back. Yeah. At the end of the show, he comes up and he just grabs my hand and he goes, "Whoever that guy is you brought, God bless you."
No one else got it except for me. It probably wasn't even funny.
We're all laughing to support Mick. But I was singing like a couple of things. But do you remember? You must have heard the 12th Man tapes, all the cricket 12th Man tapes.
I was obsessed with 12th Man tapes. Used to
half his arm missing.
Yeah, just rubbish bin.
Rubbish bin his neck out overnight.
Yeah, all of the and even then when he got into the rugby leagues, I used to Jerry see you, see you, I see you too, Jerry. and Francis Smelly, and so too is Italy. I also, when I started out, I was doing like fruity. I was obsessed with like professional wrestling and stuff, and so I was doing this character that was sort of like a homage to Eddie Murphy style comedy, and an American voice, dressed as a professional wrestler in tights, and I was doing gigs at the fucking Levin Cosmopolitan Club, right? Which is not cosmopolitan. It was just old mates. And bear in mind, this is late 90s, where New Zealand, if you weren't Billy T, you shouldn't be doing comedy. Like it was a period in comedy where it was like, we've had John Clark, mate, we've had Billy T.
But I reckon that, so this is my own, pushing my own trumpet here, but I reckon the 90s, all that 90s period, and whether it was sport, TV, or anything, actually broke a whole lot of ground, I reckon, because New Zealand really changed in that period. And, you know, we sort of flourished into the 2000s and then technology's taken over. But you're right, like, you know, it was brave back then to stand up. Even at university, a guy doing music was just it was one out of the box.
You'd look back, especially as like when I go and see comics, and anyone who had an Irish accent or something, they'd have the same material.
Yeah.
Or like, but they'd be killing. Then you get up there and be, oh, here we go. But the 90s was that real cultural cringe for everything. And the All Blacks are really the only people that have escaped that over time. Because it's always been, if you go away, you succeed overseas, you come back, then it's like...
Did you ever die on stage in the early days?
Yeah, heaps. I mean, and still do, because when you're trying out material, it's like, I'll go up, I'll write, usually in 7-minute chunks, I'll write 7 minutes, go up, do it. And then if 4 of it's good, it's okay. Because comedy's about taking everything away. Yeah. It's about you do it, and then you go, shit, it's only a minute out of that. You know, and once you cut all that away and pare it all back, and it's about keeping it real simple.
When you look at what happens in America, you know, which is one of the king of comedy countries, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. And you see, as they go on to be great, some of their past comes back to haunt them. Does that ever worry you ever?
Luckily, most of my past was been on television.
Are you talking about Bill Cosby or?
Oh, really?
Yeah, don't suddenly I got nothing.
I wasn't aware of that, guy.
No, I weirdly...
I was just wondering where you're going. What's he done?
No, this is a thing, though, that is quite a talking point within sort of global comedy now, is people being judged on what they said 10 years ago. Yeah. When, like, the climate was different. You might not have meant something by that, but that's the way people were talking something.
It's not too much different than trying to compare. I know I don't want to make it flippant comment, but it's like comparing generations of sports people to a different generation when there was different rules or different game or whatever. Same sport, but comparing All Blacks over generations. You can never do it because the game's different. So all you can say is they were funny at the time or great players at the time. But it's even more impactful because of the nature of society's change has been so vast, right?
Yeah, so, and that's the thing is also then, I don't buy into the thing people go, you can't say anything these days, right? Because I've always maintained that I'd defend what I'd say on stage. Like, I've got a good moral compass. I don't have anything against anyone, you know, as long as what you're doing is not hurting someone else, get into it. But then there's all people dragging up, they said this, like how that guy Kevin Hart, like I'm not a fan of Kevin Hart's comedy to be honest, but he lost the Oscars, hosting the Oscars over something he tweeted 10 years ago, and what they didn't cover is the fact that he'd actually fully apologised for that. Right. And going, can people not change?
Move on,
you know?
Well, also, but also part of comedy is pushing the edges as well, right? So, and I don't know, watch a bit of Bill Burr and people like that, you know, and they are really call things out for the shock value, but also it's got a half truth or it's a half, but he's using it as a platform to sort of provoke and laugh at the same time.
Yeah, but especially through America, that was how people challenged things. That's how you challenged, you know, you weren't allowed to swear on stage, and then Lenny Bruce sort of changed that. And also, this is why you can never write down what comics say, because you might make a joke that if you read it, people go, that's racist, but they don't get the tone and realise you're actually laughing at the racist, not...
Yeah, the racism,
And sometimes things have got to be shoved in your face so people can confront them.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I think we do now live in a society where people feel they can't disagree. Yeah. You know, that we've all got to be on the same side, there's no grey, whereas it's like, okay, I don't agree with this and this, I'm on the same side as you, but I don't agree with that and that. Well, and it's fine to disagree.
Yeah, well, words are sort of being... everything can be taken out of context. The nature of argument these days is try too hard to make a point, and that can then be isolated out of context and then forever held against you. And once you're labelled something, be it a racist or sexist or whatever it might be, something it's always something nasty. It's never something good, is it? But like
when you were saying that, I was actually thinking of Bill Cosby, and I was like, "What's he? A rapist?" Sorry.
But like it's sort of like you almost end up, it's a way of marginalising an argument. So then that person's just forever fighting their way back to get to a level playing field, right? What are you laughing
I'm laughing at him. He's making me laugh.
No, but it's the thing of
microphone.
it's the thing of having to defend the negative. Is if someone goes, "You're being racist," when you're not, then all of a sudden you're defending not being racist, and it's like, well, I was never racist to begin with.
No, there's a difference between the topic's racism. You should be able to laugh about it. The topic's whatever terrorism. You should be able to laugh about it. Or maybe not terrorism. Sorry.
No, but the thing is, there is
aspects.
There's I mean, they always say comedy is tragedy.
Exactly.
Plus time. Yeah. Well, an example, you say terrorism, right? Bill Burr's got a great story about this. He goes to a stand-up night like I think it was maybe even 3 days after September 11, right? And there's this American comic who he's known for I even forget his name. He's never made it big, but he was known amongst the comics as he'd say the most offensive thing. He gets up on stage, just stands shaking his head at the mic, and he goes, "Fuck. That long haul travel really can wind you up, though, can't it?"
Oh my God.
And of course he gets booed. On stage. But then me as a comic goes, Jesus.
It's not bad.
No, it's not bad, but the balls. For you to have that line and to chuck it out going, "Tonight I might say this," and everyone's laughing backstage, but then to go out and commit to it.
So you got admiration, right?
Yeah, because the thing is, comedians backstage in a green room is the most heinous shit that you'll ever hear, because everyone's trying to out-escalate each other. Everyone's just trying to push the level, and it's the way of everyone loosening up their comedy muscles, sort of just fucking around, I suppose, and sort of getting all the things out. And that's what I've always loved about 7 Days. When we film it, they say, just go nuts. Don't try and self-censor yourself, because that's where it gets ruined.
Well, let's talk about the start of your TV career. So you went from starting in stand-up comedy, and then you got discovered by C4, the C4 channel.
Yeah, and this is 10 years in. I've been doing comedy, for better or worse, for 10 years. And I'd gone overseas and failed massively in Edinburgh, but kept going and lost.
So how old were you at this point?
At this point, I would have been like 24. I'd won the Billy T Award when I was 22, and that was a point in my life where I went, I'm doing this for a job now. You won $7,000, and I sort of bought a computer, and I'd been saving up. I'd done just sort of relentless hospitality work, which I think everyone should do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It gives you a bit of respect for people.
Humility, that's right.
And I'd come out of uni. I had a degree in Eastern psychedelic religion, like why people take acid to find God. I don't know why I went down that route.
You can get a degree in that?
Yeah, no. So that was like my major.
David Higgins, if you're watching the show, something to consider.
I think I got that degree, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure I've got the paperwork.
I've got the official paperwork after being on the paperwork. And I'd sort of done that. Like, my folks had always been massively supportive, but they'd just said, look, you've got to go to uni. Because the best thing I remember my dad saying was, you go to uni to learn what you don't know. Yeah. Like, you just go to uni to go, shit, everyone's learning all this. I've got no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And so came out, then just was determined to be a stand-up. My folks sort of went, that's all good, just put a 10-year limit on it. If you can't make money in 10 years, you've got to do something else. Which was sort of wise words. And then I won this Billy T Award. Then I went, everyone's going to Edinburgh. I'll go over to Edinburgh. I grew up playing cricket, actually, with the Flight of the Conchords, with Brett from Flight of the Conchords, and so I lived with them over in Edinburgh. They were just breaking, selling out shows. I was dying on my ass. I was cancelling shows. I lost like 15 grand. I sort of borrowed and fundraised and all that sort of carry on. And so then I came back to New Zealand. Then I just, because it's something I had to do, I just kept pushing. And I knew I had the skill, but I hadn't found my niche. And then I just started doing, it was around that time, 2005, then 2006, I was doing a stand-up show at the Classic, and Andrew Schusterman and Mikey Carpenter came along, and he goes, "Hey, do you want a TV show?" And I went, "Yeah," and he goes, "Sweet, you goes to air next month." Yeah, this is going to be the guy you work with. This is Mikey. And we just became thick as thieves from there, and then we sort of just drunk beers and started making this once-a-week TV show called Insert Video Here, which was just crazy interviews on the street. It was me playing my natural game, where it was...
Perfect, right?
Where I'm quick, I'm approachable, sort of not threatening. I've always been able to get away with saying things to people you probably shouldn't say, but... because people can see it either comes from a kind place.
You know, when we were talking about things coming back to haunt you.
Yeah.
Because I remember that was probably, that sort of definitely broke you, eh? That was like, you were out into the world and it was like, oh, who's this guy's popped up, you know, for the mainstream. Obviously, comedy people would have known you. But I remember you there. You're quite potty-mouthed, you know.
Oh,
like
it was full on.
And you know, a little bit confrontational and saying things. But like, do you ever worry a little bit about? I mean, how did you get away with something? Because back then, I'm sure it was like quite risque, eh? Was that? Did they play late?
Someone and going, "Hey, if we're under a duvet, what would you do to my dick?" That's not your average question.
That's as risque as it gets.
But
what did he say?
Oh, it wasn't him. I was worried. But that show was just an experience in basically going out. I mean, there's the things on that. It suited its time. We pushed boundaries with that, but I always sort of was the fall guy who ended up looking like the dick. So that's. You know, it's because I'm not coming in from a big staunch overbearing. I was like the little guy, you know. People end up I'm never threatening in that situation. And I remember this party we went out to in West Auckland. We did an episode on House Party. we went out there. We pulled into the street, and it was just like mayhem. They knew we were coming, and Insert Video Here got this huge cult following. And we got there, and then it was like, all these people are glass barbecue enthusiasts. there's a lot of pee being smoked here. And then we went and we were interviewing it. It was a really funny episode. Then I started seeing this girl, and I go, this isn't going to end well.
Yeah.
And then we came in and filmed it on an interview and walked into this room where these guys were about to, get pretty bad heavy on this girl. So I just bowled in, chucked her over my shoulder. Have a good night, guys. Took her out and chucked her in a cab. And it was those sort of moments that when I think back on now, it's just like, this was so, it's the last situation I'd like to put myself in now.
But when you think about history and you think about those sorts of moments, tell us about when you got drunk in Christchurch.
Oh, Christchurch. Hey, that Christchurch is actually that was the first time I'd realised I was famous, in New Zealand.
What do you mean?
Because went down, the Buskers Festival was my favourite time of year. Buskers Festival and Winterfest in Queenstown. We'd go down there. You'd just do 15-minute stand-up. Everyone would chuck money into this thing, you'd divvy it up and you'd be given like $1,000 cash every night. And it was like, I'm carefree, I got no qualms or whatever. But showed up the first night and there was like this line around the block at Loaded Hog. And it was like, fuck that. And then they were all sort of pointing me out and was like, fuck, they're here to see me. And then this was just, and all the other buskers on the lineup were stoked because they were like, we're gonna cash in. Everyone's cashing in.
They got all your money.
Yeah,
we all split. Did you do the Richard Headley and go, hey guys, this car, I think I want to keep this car. You guys, how about you guys use my batch once a week?
He did that for the player of the match. They used to get the car, flog it off, then split the. Keep this one because I'm quite a good bowler. You see,
but he did offer. I think there was an offer for he had a batch in the Marlborough Sounds or something, so he offered everyone like a weekend for 2 at the Marlborough Sounds. It's not all guys.
Yeah, don't take the plastic off the sofas.
I like the way you sort of weave around that a bit. But tell us about the time you got drunk.
No, so then we get to. I'm wondering whether I should tell the stories about the guy who stopped me into this story.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's okay, but he wouldn't have been the guy who took my room card and went speed dating and took something back while I was on stage. But anyway,
probably not that guy. Probably not that
guy. But so we go down. We think it would be great to film down here, and I mean that was just in the height of a piss trip. Like that was when things had just exploded. I don't have kids, you know. The best thing in my life, a quick segue, was I met my wife pretty much when I got famous, which has saved me a lot of issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I was pissed a lot of time and hammered, and where it's like that. But I've always had a moral compass on that, and it's like that has been a saving grace that I don't have.
Were you pissed when you came across the homeless man
spooning a homeless man was probably my height. One of the most famous incidents.
What do you mean?
Here. Well, we were filming. Filming all night, drinking all night, doing whatever was going around, and then we were we've got to go and film some stuff. So I ended up in the back of a bread truck talking to some poor bastard trying to deliver his bread. Then just started spooning this homeless guy and having a bit of a dance with him.
He was asleep and you just came up.
Yeah, and just had a spoon. He actually, I can't remember. I probably smelt worse than him, to be honest. But this is just in the long line of things that made Insert Video here this cult sort of show, which is why I was then so surprised, like because we were sort of looking at going to America and doing another one. We did Australia, which was just crazy, and
with C4.
Yeah, with C4,
right.
And then we're looking at going to America. Then the global financial crisis happened, and it just sort of was like,
no, they're going.
And then so I went from this height of like, it's not. It shows how much stand-up is so much about love. There was never money in this. You know, we were making it.
So when stand-up, one question I wanted to ask you before. So, because I reckon when you watch a good stand-up, one of the things in sport you talk about is being in the zone, you know, sort of like you get that feeling of like you're not thinking, everything's pure, it's just reaction, just watching it. And you watch a good stand-up or you know, you guys on 7 days is the same thing. You can sort of see you get in this sort of flow, you know, where it's just, and I think that's one of the things that makes you so special is you can see that you're not monitoring yourself. You're just reacting. And it's just so instant. It's that instantaneous thing that makes it so good and so pure.
Well, comedy is surprise.
Yeah.
So I always find it surprise when you just start going.
Yeah.
And then you're sort of slightly surprising yourself, and you definitely get in that flow sort of state where even if, like, the best thing is all stand-ups pretty much have their set of what they're going to say. It just comes out slightly differently. So when you're in that, then you can sort of go off-piste a bit, and then you come back and it's all sort of going well.
Yeah.
But then when you have say a 48-year-old woman who's had 2 bottles of Chardonnay trying to talk to you while you're trying to get into the flow, or you've just got an old geezer there who's just
talking shit,
punching beers, or you've got Matthew and Mark at the back after yelling out. That's when it gets hard, because then you're in a bit more fight or flight, where it's like, okay, right, this I've got to worry about this dude, because there's nothing worse than getting all the way to the end of a joke and then someone yelling something out. It's like, well, I can't start again. You've ruined the ruined the flow. And it's that thing like cricket, where you know you can play the same shot, and you're not doing anything, it's flying to the boundary, or some days it's just like, why the fuck can't I hit it?
Yeah.
Like you're doing everything the same, but it's just a weird little sort of, or everything feels hard.
Well, that's what makes it so magical, isn't it? It's just so intangible, and that's what that form you get into when you can just sort of bring it on. And the great players of anything, they seem to be able to get into that state more often, right? It's like that was, and some even don't even seem to ever get out of it.
Yeah, well, for me, I found for stand-up, and it's something I got to a bit later, was just not the whole thing which I've been trying to bring to my life a bit more, is that not caring.
Yeah.
Like, just not caring.
Well, you can't.
Stuff, because stand-up, you definitely have imposter syndrome sort of stuff, because, you know, like a corporate, company will pay a lot to go there, right? Yeah. And you're like going, what are you paying me? You know, what the fuck am I, you know, what am I doing here? You know,
it's funny you tipped on it. Did you called last week before he, what was it? A sellout? Is that what you...
Oh, you're going to go there? Oh, shivers.
No, I don't. I can't. Is that?
I'm a big boy, man. I can call him a sellout on my own terms. Thanks very much. I was going to get there. No. My point was, I thought that, well, you know, surely on this meteoric rise that you've had, that before I come to the sellout part.
I'm looking forward to that.
I wanted to just say, are you at that point now where you just turn up and people think you're funny? Like, is it sort of like, is there a natural sort of point? Because you know, I would say in New Zealand, there's a few, but you're probably the funny guy, right? You know, there's and if you look at 7 days, that's the perfect position and moulding, because all those guys you'll set each other up.
It buys you 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I was saying before about how honest comedy is. It'll buy you 5 minutes. Like the difference is I can get up and people go, oh no, he's funny.
Yeah.
But then if you're not funny, then it's like, I saw that bloody guy from 7 days. He's shit. Like, the thing is, because you can't fake laughing. So that's the thing is, and I've always been a real, not perfectionist, but really concerned about doing a good job.
Yeah.
Like, work ethic's always been something that was instilled in me from my folks. So that's what stresses me out. And then it's like, I've got to get to the point of going, well, who cares, you know?
Yeah.
I've got to look at my track record. I haven't fucked one up so far. So, well, you know...
But Nashi's right.
Have you not fucked any up? I've fucked some up.
No, I mean, you know, like in terms of like when, in terms of a big gig, I haven't. There's not one.
You have balls.
No, and not one that I've fucked up through not being prepared, not trying.
Because every now and then I get invited along something, and so like I'm on the board of a charity for Catwalk Trust. It's like for research into paraplegic injuries, and so they'd asked me to do a thing for talking about you do a debate, and they for months there'd been this 1,000 black tie at the Sky City, and I was like, yeah, sweet, no worries. And there's me and Heather Duplessis Allen and someone else, and it was about competition, and I got given the lie, you shouldn't worry about keeping score, you know. I got given the obviously one that I shouldn't have, and the other ones would keep score. Anyway, so it was like 2 minutes, you've only got 2 minutes, and it got drilled for months and months and months. So I was like, oh yeah, 2 minutes, sweet as. So I would go up there on stage, black tie dinner, all these famous rich people, and then the first guy jumps up from the other team, talks for 10 minutes, and I could just feel the blood all drain out of me, and because I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, I've literally got 90 seconds here. And I'm like, it's like, and you know that horrible feeling and the most out of body experience is like I'm just thinking to myself, what am I going to do? I've got nothing.
I know.
So,
talking about charities and fuck ups, I have actually fucked one up that comes to mind. Where there's the big auction. They always have an auction. They're like, fuck yeah. I went through a phase of like I was really good at running this sort of auction. It was a bit funny. Get up and I'm quite pissed. So around the insert video here, beginning of 7 days, I was a big caner. I get up and I'm like, this is for a good cause. This is for Kids Can. These kids have cancer, okay? And the organiser comes on stage and, hey, they don't have cancer, mate. This is Kids Can. It's about like getting kids dressed and stuff. And I was like, look, we've just found out Kids Can is about jackets and stuff. But hey, if you look at statistically, some of these kids also have cancer, so you'd be supporting them as well. And just where I've got a couple of mates who are there who are like, this is the funniest shit we've ever seen.
Best stand-up ever. That's great.
Because what I've always enjoyed is the digging myself out of the hole. Like, starting the hole, then trying to get out of it is a trope in stand-up I find really enjoyable.
Yeah.
But Nashy's right. Like when you did the Uber Eats campaign.
Yeah.
Like when it first aired on TV, my wife and kids were just, you didn't, it's a real short segment.
Yeah.
And everyone was just roaring with laughter. I was like, he's funny.
No, this is why,
you're funny now all the time.
like why I like that is
But
because
don't apologise to Nash about selling out. You don't.
look now. Well, that's my job. It's the job.
Well, let me talk about the selling out. So the thing was Dancing with the Stars, right? Yeah. So you grew up listening to grunge, right? You were Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Nirvana. Surely, tell me that you.
Mate, I was actually more. I was. That's. I consider that sellout music.
Oh my god!
I was more Dead Kennedys, Crass, like that sort of side.
Well,
of it.
so you're a double sellout.
Yeah, I'd spray painted my windows. I was full anarchist when I was in school. Full anarchist. I was that, and Public Enemy was my mate.
You were hardcore.
First concert, I got snuck out to Public Enemy when I was 13 by my babysitter, who became a best mate.
I thought you were going to say it was a girl that babysitted.
No.
It's like that would have been cool.
And, no, but then I got just. It's like there was the heyday in New Zealand, right?
Yeah.
That like Corbett actually rode through nicely, where more FM, there's no internet, all the advertising dollars and TV and radio. Right, You're getting batches on the Coromandel. You're living it, right? Where I came through after the internet had broke, just as things are starting to dissipate. Like you make a good wicket, but I've still got a mortgage in Avondale. It's not like boom, right? That year's sorted that house
Mike
out.
Hoskins' life,
Yeah, where you get all like those. But who was it? Hawkesby who got that massive payout. Back in the day. I remember
he worked like 6 months or something on a 10-year contract and got $5 million. I was like,
I remember seeing
how did you get that job?
I've got to get into media works, mate. I've got the cash. But so then then I realised this sort of segues to like the Concords getting massive.
Yeah.
Like, they were signing these deals. I came back here and then I suddenly realised I've tried that. Why do I want to go over there? The grass is always greener. Someone's always got a better gig. Someone's always got a better contract. I love New Zealand. I'm going to do it here. Things are working out. But to do it here, I had to do, corporate gigs, emceeing, bow repairs gigs.
Tough.
I do define my career more by the stuff I've said no to. I've said no to so much shit because I wanted to play the long game.
Yeah.
I haven't wanted to be... See, like, unless you're Dan Carter, who can do do it all,
right.
No one gives Dan Carter shit for doing, like, 10 endorsements at the same time.
I think they sort of do.
Yeah, they sort of do. But also then you can't really, because it's like,
But then he does the tag, how are you one or whatever, with Tom Brady, and it's all okay again. It's like, oh, man, how's he pulled that off?
But the thing was... So I've been quite picky about the ad sort of stuff I've done. Like the Uber Eats one I like because it was
Rachel Hunter.
Weird and it was Rachel Hunter.
What do you mean?
But it was just like...
It's Tom Brady, same thing.
It was funny without trying to be funny. The worst thing is when, especially with commercial stuff, is you go in, the idea's awesome. It's really funny.
Yeah.
Then clients start watering it down because they're scared of the comedy thing. They're scared of, fuck, what if this is offensive? Then you end up doing the worst of everything. Yeah. So it's been that trying to earn, and also going, this is my skill set. I've got a family.
Yeah.
Why, if
I was only really tongue in cheek about the sellout.
Absolutely.
But
my 16-year-old self, if my 16-year-old self saw me doing ads.
What's Rachel Hunter like?
She was, so I was really intrigued as because I'd heard from back in the day she could be a bit difficult to work with or whatever. Really? Then, because I'm fully into the Eastern meditation buzz and all that.
With LSD. And
yeah, that faded out. The LSD faded out a bit, but the meditation stayed there.
Nice.
And she is like an Indian yogi now who lives 18 months in India, then in LA, and so we actually had a lot in common, and she's such a lovely person. In a situation like that, you end up sitting and just talking shit so much. And also that thing of she's such an icon of New Zealand. I mean,
do you in a way? I mean, because you know, to sort of try and gift you back a little bit from the me calling you a sellout was, but it's almost it is almost like you know, you've become to some degree, you know, you've been at the core of the rejuvenation of comedy in New Zealand, really. I don't think I'm overstating that. It really feels like, you know, you and that 7 Days crew and the wider sort of community. I mean, obviously, Flight of the Conchords is huge overseas, but here domestically, it has almost been like, I mean, you're almost like Rachel Hunter, and it's almost like you need a trumpet in your hand, you know, and a V-dub. It's sort of like got to that level. Do you feel that?
I feel really proud of what we did with Insert Video here. We definitely made the younger cats get into comedy, because before that, because I was sort of mentored by Mike King when he was in the height of his manic sort of cocaine days, of where he was coming off the back of, like, there's that funny as comedy documentary where he actually just spoke really candidly about those sort of times. And we'd never talked about it that much since then, except that he was fucking full on, but driven, and he was so funny, and he really liked my comedy. And we made a full pilot and stuff, and he was sort of backing it. And then it was just because no one wanted New Zealand comedy. And the pilot we did make was funny, but it was still entrenched in the old school. Then when Insert Video came out, it was like, this doesn't have rules. This is just fucking funny, but it's not trying to be a sketch show. It's not trying to be that. So I think I definitely made it okay for younger cats to come on, because I've always been I was always the sort of younger one in the group. Like when we came through, I came through with Rhys Darby, and then behind me there was Ben Hurley.
Rhys Darby's got such an awkward, funny nature, eh? Like he's almost like, I mean, early on Rhys Darby you're almost watching him trying to help him not bomb.
No,
you know?
but
then it was so much so that when the laugh came, it was like, oh, he's hilarious.
But he's awkward, but he was so confident. Even on open mic nights, he'd come out and go, oh, so I'm on with all these fucking chumps. They should be fucking sitting backstage asking for my autograph. You know, and then he sort of... And I lived with him for years, and we sort of had this real great group of where you'd go to the classic comedy bar, you'd get paid $20 to $40, you'd spend it all over the bar, they'd still give you more beers. It was just the idea of living in the moment.
It's comedy, right?
Yeah, and then we'd just crack each other up. But I think it gets blurred a bit, because coming through at the same time as like the Conchords and Rhys, they rose to these in massive international heights, but domestically, C4 especially, brought through so much talent. And then when Jono and Ben sort of started shifting, they were employing so many comics. Then 7 Days started, and now young cats go, oh, we don't have to go to the fucking Live-In Cosmopolitan Club. We can actually get a job.
Do you think maybe some of them should still go to the Live-In?
Oh, definitely. I think there's a... I don't know whether this is me just being a bit of an old cunt.
Probably.
The thing is, there's something about being battle-hardened as a comic, of knowing... I've got this 20 minutes and it's going to work in front of a hipster crowd in Grey Lynn, or I can go out to Pukekohe in front of some V8 dudes and it'll still work. And that's what I had, because I was quirky, as I said. I was fucking dressed up in tights, right? So I got called everything under the sun. I'm getting changed into fucking a unitard in a bar, and then coming out and trying to be full-on aggressive with them.
Hey, you know, in America, they talk about, a lot of the greats talk about Richard Pryor as an influence. You mentioned at the start of this, you won the Billy T. James Award.
Yeah.
Who was your influences?
For me, it was Robin Williams was my biggest stand-up influence.
Yep.
As in terms of someone who had flow, he would just have this amazing flow.
Yep.
And I had a tape of him live at the Met that I'd just watch over and over and over again.
Yep.
Like I mean, Billy T, his show was always on.
Yeah, he was amazing.
But in terms of, he wasn't, because I never really saw myself getting into sketch comedy. He wasn't so much like, because I never saw him as a stand-up. He was just this epic entertainer.
Which was that was the times as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sketch comedy, same in Australia.
Yeah, and even here with Funny Business and stuff like that, it was all about sketch comedy.
Yeah.
Then when I was sort of getting into it, and these Canadian guys, Phil Nicol and Craig Campbell, who were just the most mental dudes ever. We were doing this corporate sort of setup for the Laugh Festival at the time, where they get all the sponsors into the Heritage, the big tea room at the Heritage, and we do a comedy debate. And Craig Campbell comes down with half a bottle of Canadian Club empty robe with nothing on underneath it, and it's wide open. And then walks straight through the crowd up to the mic and starts talking about the best way to fuck a moose is with a hockey stick, so you can tickle its ear and distract it. As he's half pissed, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is amazing. And just you could see that the people watching it going, and of course there's nothing worse in a way than a corporate crowd, because it's people with their boss, and then they watch as their boss laugh. There's all these other dynamics. The best dynamic is a dark room where people are just watching and they're not aware of.
I remember going to see Ben Elton. This is years and years ago, and I was still playing cricket, and I went, and it was over on the North Shore somewhere, and it was quite steep, sort of I don't know where it was, but it was steep and amphitheatre sort of thing. And I remember he did this sort of circular thing where he sort of started with this point about the spot, and he ended up, and it came around, and with about the 20 minutes to go in the show, you could see that it was all going to link back up. You know, it was just so clever. It was just and talking about the Spice Girls and, you know, all this funny stuff at the time. But at one point I was laughing so hard that I was bent over in my seat and like literally having a laughing fit. You know, when you have an uncontrolled laughing fit. And I just snapped into the middle of it, and I just thought, shit, you're making an absolute fool of yourself. And I just sort of like sat up and sat back in my seat, and I looked around, and you could see just all around the thing, and the whole place was having the same fit. And I just thought, oh my God, this guy is so funny. It's just brilliant.
Because the endorphins that you get from that.
Yeah, it is. It's like a high, isn't it? It's absolutely. Hey, I want to ask you about your mum and dad, because like you've sort of come from a high achieving family, right?
Yeah, definitely. My mum was like the first woman judge in Wellington and the second in New Zealand.
It's amazing.
And she was young as well at the same time. And Dad's always been, he came over from Wales as a teacher at Mana College, and he went into the DSIR and introduced the breathalyzer to New Zealand. He's a forensic toxicologist. Then he became an actor. And so I always knew him as an actor. And it was an awesome household to grow up in. Yeah. Just like my parents were all about sort of just dinner parties and they started Circuit Theatre in Wellington. I grew up in a theatre with all the other theatre kids, and it was just crazy times. And I mean, Mum's always had this massive drive, and she works a lot with the youth court, and we've got this thing called the Henwood Trust, where we work about trying to find different outcomes for really serious violent youth offenders. And we've just put together this thing, the Covenant for Children, which is sort of an aspirational document for all the children in New Zealand, and we've got all the heads of all the iwi to sign it, and Māori are behind it, and we're sort of starting up a whole Māori youth court called the Rangatahi Court. Process, which is about it's around the thing of everyone's just sick of people saying, oh, well, look, there's so many Maoris in jail. They're keen to blame Maori, but they're not letting Maori be part of the solution. So it's sort of been, and I'm a Pākehā. we're a Pākehā family,
Yeah.
but mum's just had such this drive.
It's incredible.
For justice.
Yeah.
And especially trying to help people and realising that jail's not the...
Well, especially at youth as well, right?
Yeah,
She must have seen so many sad stories of...
Oh, yeah, of all that. And I'm glad I can come in. I've been able to come into it now as a trustee of where I'm not trying to do any of the day-to-day mental sort of stuff, trying to figure this out. But I can I'm good at bringing people together, bringing a different perspective on it, and just seeing all this work that goes on, and no matter what the government is, how much pushing shit uphill happens before you can actually get anything done. And it sort of feels nice for me being part of something that's not just... Like, I mean, although I always think comedy's quite frivolous and that, but then I did a gig and afterwards this woman came up and she was, hey, I just wanted to say that my sister died last week, and this has been amazing because when I laugh, I don't think about the pain.
That's nice.
And that thing of going, shit, actually, you can bring.
Oh, you can. I'm sure there's some science that I haven't read, but it's got to be good for you, right?
You can bring it, unless you go about it the wrong way. I was just, when you're talking about the Ben out, and I thought you were going to say someone fucked up the gig, because there's this great line this guy did. He's like going along, and there's this woman who's just been completely fucking ruining every gig, and so he goes for the real cheap, well, I fucked your mum. And she goes, my mum's dead. And he goes, well, I hope she didn't have AIDS then. Because I didn't use a condom.
That's great.
And it's the thing of like, that's when comedy goes from this point. That's why I love stand-up, and that's also why I think nothing.
2 minutes ago, you were telling us about the good work you were doing in a court with setting up a Henwood Trust, and now we're talking about dying of AIDS.
Yeah, you're right. It's good. Nice tempo shift.
It just sprung into my mind. I wouldn't usually use that story.
But did your parents, apart from the good work, clearly, because, there's having people who have achieved gives you a great platform, right, to sort of, but it also comes with a little bit of pressure. So did you feel, I mean, you said earlier that they said 10 years, do it, but... Did you feel the pressure of having
I had massive pressure that wasn't put on by them, but coming through in Wellington, which is a really small city, it's geared towards theatre. Stand-up wasn't very popular in Wellington, especially at the time. It was a very small city. I just got this thing that I didn't want people thinking I was getting stage time because my dad's a famous actor.
But he was a big influence.
Yeah, he was a massive influence on me, and my dad just taught me, the best thing my dad ever said to me was he said that heaps of people have a similar skill set, right? There are absolute geniuses, but there are heaps of people who have a similar skill set, and if you're a good person and you're fun to work with, you'll always get the job over the other person. Call. And it was just like, that stuck with me, and it was just, that kept me grounded in terms of whenever I did a job. It was like, remember, be nice to everyone. You don't know, that whole thing of, you be nice to them on the way up. You don't know if you need.
Well, that's the thing I didn't do.
Me neither.
But just, can I shift gears a little bit? So...
can I...
sorry.
Before you do it, one last question that segues to that is... Because the opposite of that is, in my environment, very competitive sport. But your all environments are competitive, right? So because I think you're a competitive person.
I'm really competitive.
So how did you, just to finish that point, how did you manage that competitiveness and still be a nice guy?
Yeah, in terms of that pressure, I left Wellington because of that. I went, fucking, I'm moving to Auckland where I can start. No one knows me. Yeah, boom.
That's brave.
Flat with a comic. Start at the ground.
That's brave again.
Go for it, and that worked out. The thing, comedy's really interesting on the competitive level because it is competitive. Everyone wants their gig, but also there's this real camaraderie because you don't want, like for me, I want the person before me to smash it.
Yeah.
So if they do, then I'm
Good
coming
for you,
out on
good
a
for
wave.
them. Yeah, that's right.
Whereas if they die on their ass, I've got to weirdly address that. Like, you know, and that thing of people like, Jesus, he was shit.
Yeah, totally.
And you don't want to go out and there go, fuck, he's gone now. That's fun. But it's that it still has that drive, but you've got to always temper it, because you can buy into that. Like, I got into a real dark place of buying into, fuck, Flight of the Conchords is so big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The you know, races.
Yeah.
He's hooked up with them. He's now getting these gigs. And then it was like, hold on, if I was them, someone else's, there's a bigger, you know?
Yeah.
Seinfeld's bigger than that. You know, so there's
right.
always this other, there's always a better contract you could have.
That Seinfeld always talk every time he interviews one on that coffee getting cars or whatever thing. So that, anyway,
Yeah, comedians in cars getting coffee. Coffee,
something.
But they always, just about everyone he asks, they all say they love seeing their friends bomb on stage. Like it's
it's
like
It's like you're making a duck. It's like fucking beauty. You go and get 100 and you
except
must
in
make
the big game, mate.
Yeah.
It's like you like seeing them get a duck until it really matters, and then it's
that's
like,
right.
and then it's like, come on, man.
There's always a couple of comics who we always loved. Who a comedian is usually someone who has a pretty average set, but comics are at the back, just laughing. Like there's Grant Lobbin, who was an amazing comic. He's now become famous on Shortland Street, which amazed us all. He always had this line. He'd come out and go, "Yeah, my brother, he was a hard individual. We went to Vietnam together, and Chopper came down to pick us up and misjudged the way we were landing, and the blades came and just cut his head off. And I can remember thinking, as his head rolled down the hill, we should neck fuck him." So we all fucked him in the neck. Yeah, my brother could swallow. he would come out and he would open with this after people had been like just riffing on stuff, and the crowd would be and he'd just be deadpan like
What
that.
just happened to us?
Yeah.
Well, it was like James Stewart.
That's it. When you talk comedians, competitors, the industry. So plagiarism is a big word, okay?
Yeah.
And I want to talk about this because I don't think the modern guy, the guy that goes to the party, the rest of us plagiarise our humour. We plagiarise jokes and stories and anecdotes. So Joe Rogan, I don't know the comedian, but Joe Rogan destroyed another comedian's career recently through calling him a plagiarist. Yeah. I don't know if you know the guy I mean.
I know the incident. I don't know the guy. I mean, there's been quite a few.
Is that right? Is it? Have you come across it? Is it prevalent in our?
It's something that is like the dirtiest word.
Yeah.
The dirtiest word and something you'd never want to be.
Yeah.
Accused of
stealing someone else's material.
And it's something that, you know, if you're in the comedy industry and you make that call, that's like you better fucking have something to back that up.
Yeah.
You know?
How much of it is the actual joke versus the style?
See, there's definitely differences, because the thing is, you think of an issue, there's only so many ways to look at that issue. Yeah. You know what I mean? So if it's a topical joke, I can see how people can come up with the
Was it Carlos Mencina? Is that right?
Yes, I think it was.
Yeah. You destroyed him. He's gone.
Yeah, because but then the thing is, Robin Williams was often accused of that.
Really?
He would go into they say he would go into a comedy club, say an open mic thing.
Yeah.
And if he pinched a joke from that, who's going to believe
exactly.
the 18-year-old versus the
superstar? So
there was a rumour, like if he came into the room, that tech would flicker
right,
and then the people on stage would know. But I never.
Surely you can't talk about Robin Williams like that.
No, I'd never buy in. I never buy into that. I'm always of the thing of my things about writing jokes and telling jokes. Yeah. So if someone nicked a joke of mine, I just fucking get rid of it and do another one.
Yeah.
If you hold on to
Has it
the
happened?
someone that I've seen someone's been influenced by it. There was a period where I was sort of really starting to come to the fore domestically, where a lot of people had my style of comedy, and were maybe doing some similar lines. But it was that thing of, if I'm going to get bogged down in this, then that's going to do is hurt me. It's that thing of, and it's hard nowadays. It's so different. You can go on the internet and watch the best 5 minutes of every comic in the world.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
When I came through, it was like getting Robin Williams VHS.
Well, but it's even better than that now. Like a guy that's become new to me is Norm Macdonald.
Oh God, he is so funny.
He's funny.
Honestly, and it's like, but the internet is perfect for him, right?
Have you heard his gay country singer sketch? Everyone out there, look it up. It's about a country singer who goes underground, and then when he comes back to record his new album, he's come out as being gay, but he hasn't told any of the producers, and he starts singing, and they'll be, hey, what do you mean by getting deep down in the manhole cover there? And then it slowly comes out. He gets gayer and gayer through this recording. It's an amazing, but it's something only Norm Macdonald could do. He's just got an amazing delivery. But the thing is, like with that plagiarism, like going back to Robin Williams, I don't buy into that, because I think there's a lot of people who have stuff to gain by also like by saying, "Oh, Robin Williams ripped me off," or
but it's sort of like someone like, I remember a guy, Michael Parlane, was who I played cricket with. Was the first guy I ever do the scoop shot. So he played domestic cricket in New Zealand. Looked like Martin Crowe. Quite a classy batsman. Never quite played for New Zealand.
Was there a Neil Parlane as well?
No, brothers. They were brothers. So, but Michael was my era, and he perfected, before anyone else had ever seen it, the scoop shot, right? So you put the bat down, and now, and of course what's happened over time, I learnt to do it off him, and then other people do it, then Damascena does it, then all of a sudden Brendan McCullum's doing a different version of it, 2 hands over a thing, and it's like, you would never accuse Brendan McCullum of plagiarising, but he's sort of taken the idea and done it better, right? Yeah. And it's sort of like, and it's same thing with Robin Williams, I reckon. Like Robin Williams, you can sort of see, you draw inspiration from things, and if you saw something funny that someone didn't quite pull off, but you got the gist of it, a genius will work out how to make that work, right?
Yeah, and there's, I suppose in a way, there is nothing more frustrating than watching like a rookie comic who does a gag.
Right. Who's got a really good idea.
No, who's got an idea, and it's like, oh, fuck.
You're so close.
So close to that bit. And it's not getting a laugh, and you just got to...
But it's a fine line, because, you talked before about Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
And he had a brother, Charlie Murphy, who was part of Dave Chappelle's crew.
Oh, I saw him when he came over here.
He's so funny. those Prince sketches, and, he's hilarious.
Eddie Murphy's not really very funny
now.
No,
but he was cutting edge back then.
Yeah.
Well,
he has just got 70 million for Netflix specials.
Bad,
comparing Chris Martin to you. He's taking 200 wickets, but he's not...
singer?
No, he's not doing that. Not either, He's still got his couple of wickets.
Are you trying to set me up, eh?
No.
But I tell you, the hardest thing about being known as the funny guy, right, is people think you're just
funny all the time.
You can do stand up all the time. Like, I went over to this. I still wake up with fucking cold sweats about this. I went over to like the upside of like when I came through being funny was I got to meet a lot of dudes who were like sporting idols. Right? Like Dan Carter, we mentioned before, I became friendly with him, and I was like, fuck, you're just a good dude. And they see me as someone who's at the pinnacle of being funny, so we can sort of relate, but we're not competing and so forth.
Yeah.
So I went over to Argentina with the All Blacks when they did their first tour there, and Air New Zealand started flying over there. So I went over like with this tour party, and then Dan Carter went, come on, we'd do club night on Tuesday where everyone dresses up in their club gear, have some beers, come along. Get there, and he goes, so you do some stand-up for the boys. And it's just the squad, fucking squad of 30 dudes and bloody Steve Hansen.
No.
Standing around me in a semicircle.
Demanding stand-up.
Going, just do 10 minutes, mate.
Oh, again.
And, it's like intimidating. intimidating dudes. And also, when you have a clique of, like, you'd know from sport, when you have a team, you have the funny bastards in the team. So that thing was like, Nonu was always the dude who was, you know, so it was like, and this is before any of like, the Aaron Smith toilet stuff had happened. So there wasn't any, so I couldn't even...
Yeah, you had Richie McCaw to work with.
So, like, luckily, it was that thing of I just sort of started, then I went, oh, fuck, I got this bit that's about 10 minutes long and it mocks all these other sports. So I sort of slipped into that, but then tried to personalise it. But I've never been more... Because, you know, when you're nervous, your voice goes up a bit high. Also, I'm just standing there. You don't have... When you've got the dynamic of a comedy club, you've got the lights, the microphones, like, I've got the talkie stick.
The other thing, though, is also is sports teams become like a culture of themselves. Like I remember going on a cricket tour, because cricket tours are 4 months long. You'd come home and you'd had your own language, you know, like all little in jokes and little comments and just language that you'd picked up from the video and the bus or whatever that all the team had watched, and so. It becomes like a wall, a really intimidating wall, eh?
And where you've got in-jokes where you don't quite know where it started. It might have been a thing on the menu that then just became a word, but it was that was that moment that I still wake up going, oh, fuck. And then I try to stay out of situations like that now.
So, well, that's actually probably, because now you don't drink, right? So
now that's something I partied, I started young on drink, I've always sort of dabbled with drugs, but never that's never been a massive vice for me. But drinking's just such an insidious thing where I'm lucky I've got, because one of my positives is I don't do anything in moderation, which is why I'm a good comedian, I think. Yeah. And this is also a theory I've got about why people who are really successful have issues with alcohol and stuff, because they can't moderate. It's like, when I do this, I go fucking all in. Yeah. So then it's when I'm having I neck back. And then it was so much fun just drinking and being loose, and then it started to have impacting my relationship, and then I was always a pretty happy drunk. I was never an abusive guy. I don't get rageful when I'm drinking, but like then there was a few moments when my wife's just really started to worry about me. So then I started taking time off the booze, and then I started doing shows when I wasn't drinking, and they were so much better. Like, and just in terms of the structure of a show, and I was like, shit, I'm taking it to another level. Yeah. And then I had kids, and then I'd drink a bit, and then it just slips back in. Yeah. No, I'm not getting caned, but it's still
creeps up on you.
Yeah, and if you looked at how much you should drink, it still becomes 5-6 beers a night.
That's right. Yeah.
And then you go, and that's not a night where I'm sort of getting loose. And then I went, fuck, I'll just try a year off, and so I'm doing that at the moment. And it's I've found myself at a nice place, and it's that thing of just going, fuck, I've done so much drinking. If I have a year off and I go back to it, because my thing, it's not about trying to set.
It's almost like throwing something new into the mix in a way, isn't it? I explain having kids like that. It's like you know, so you got to keep changing up the recipe a bit.
Yeah, and parenting's been a really hard thing for me. It's something that I always thought I'd naturally be a great parent and always wanted to have kids. But I've got like a son who's awesome, but he's a spirited kid who's hard.
How old are the kids?
6 and 3.
Do they know Daddy's a star?
Yeah, they know. The funny, my 6-year-old, we're at the mall. We're at the mall, and people come up for selfies and that. And he's, okay, we're just selfies with kids. We're not doing adults today. Right, one more selfie, then we're out of here, okay? Yeah, you, mate. You can come up. He's like a little bouncer. But because I'm like, I've never had to deal with rage and anger in my life like I have since I've had kids.
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
welcome to my world.
Yeah, I've never got to that level. Like, that level of going, oh, so people who have anger issues, this is why they punch people out in the street. Because they get so wound up by that mouth-breathing dude taking too long at the ATM, they just clock him. But then the rage is almost more personified, because when you've got kids, your natural instinct is to hold it in.
Yeah, that's right.
So you just like, so dealing with that and coming to grips with disciplining, and it's just been like that's been a huge trip. So and also we don't have big sleepers as kids, so I've sort of taken the booze out, and like this year particularly, I've started training with Monty Beetham like 3 times a week at the crack of dawn.
Great bloke.
And that's
What keeps you going? How do you get up at the crack of dawn? So
I've always been early mornings. Right. Even if I partied all night, I'd be up at 6. Something I love the morning.
But what keeps you motivated? Because I'm an older guy now, and I don't want to do anything exercise-wise, and I'm starting to feel like my bones and starting to put on a bit of weight, but I keep thinking the motivation will come, but it's not. And then I think, well, why? What keeps you motivated? So
when you're a short dude, TV and putting on 5 kegs, you see it real quick on a small dude. Because for me, 7 kgs is a huge...
Yeah, that's the business you're in. You look good. You look really good.
But the thing is, I find it hard. Like I must say that yesterday I was thinking I'm sort of an interesting, not a rut, but a part of my life where I'm like, fuck, what am I? Yeah. What is my next? Like I'm not hungry at the moment for any 7 days. We've hit 10 years.
That's amazing.
It's the longest running comedy show in New Zealand.
It's laugh out loud though, man. It's so good
because we still just like push the boundaries. Like some of the stuff that was said about the Uber Eats ad about me eating out Rachel Hunter on 7 days straight when it went to air. No one I watched that back going, oh my god, you left that in. That's like so intense.
Hey, I have to ask you, have you watched The Educators?
Yes.
I thought that was laugh out loud.
So
I thought they nailed how to feel awkward.
So Johnny Bruff and Jackie Van Beek, they were both, I've been really close with them and done shows over the years. Down at One Red Dog on Ponsonby Road back in the day.
One Red Dog.
I used to manage that joint, right? I used to manage it. And we put a show on, Jackie, Johnny, Rhys Darby and myself, called The Dog Show, where no one knew it was happening. Rhys Darby and Jackie, this is before Rhys or Jackie were recognisable, would sit down. I'd be the waiter. People knew me as the waiter and manager. I was always cruising around. They would have an anniversary. She'd give him a present, then he'd give her a present, she'd unwrap it, and it was this massive dildo. And they'd have this this argument that would get bigger and bigger, and everyone would start looking. And then Johnny Bruff came down and started banging on the window, and he had an electric guitar, and he'd walk in and he'd just get up real pissed on a table and start wailing on this electric guitar while these people argued about this dildo. And just watching all the other people go, what the fuck is going on? And it was just phenomenal. And those guys could improvise so much. And then seeing The Educators, because Jackie, who's in that, she's married to Jesse Griffin, and they just have this, and that is... that's comedy that I watch. It still surprises me.
He's got Jesse's brilliant in himself. He's got such a soft touch, It's incredible. Hey, before we're running a little bit short on time, but because there's a couple of questions I have to ask you, which are not about comedy. One is because you're a Warriors fan.
Oh yeah,
diehard Warriors fan. So I can't let the opportunity pass.
I also hasten. I have to preface it. I'm actually a league fan first. I'm a league fan.
Right, sorry.
And I'm a Warriors fan. Growing up, I was straight up Balmain. I wanted to be Benny Elias when I was...
Yeah, nice, yeah.
And then they came in, and of course, the Warriors became my home as default.
Did league ever get better than when they had the balls with the white spirals? Do you remember the white spirals? That was at its peak. That was at its peak. Why did they stop that? That was the best.
And you used to be able to wear it. You used to be able to wear a full
big
fucking
cast. Mel Meninga's arm was this big. And he was 17 stages to smash people with it.
Because they used to wear hockey pads as well.
The Bulldogs did, Steve Foakes.
And no, I just because I played rugby. I would have been kicked out of school if I played league.
Yeah,
that's just sort of the nature of how rugby and union and league was, especially in Wellington. Wasn't a real big league town. And I'd watch it the night before. I could stay up late and watch the Winfield Cup.
Yeah.
And it's just, and for me, we used to have a keg party each year and watch the 89 grand final.
That's Steve Jackson. Steve Jackson, greatest driver.
Technically the best grand final.
Best grand final.
of all
Best
time.
grand final
and
ever.
every year we'd watch the same game and drink a keg.
It's the quintessential game of rugby league.
Yeah.
But what happens in the final? Who's
So
playing?
basically, Balmain get the lead, and but everything goes wrong. So Ben Elias kicks a field goal, like no one's charging down anything to take his time. He kicks it, hits the crossbar, and bounces back. Little McNeil runs through, and he's unstoppable. And someone ankle taps him, and he's about to score. He's no one in front of him, and that happens. Then Steve Jackson scores the greatest try of like a couple of seconds on the clock. But Warren Ryan, the Balmain coach, has taken off the greatest Balmain players. And you can't put them back on for the extra time. So he's taken off Paul Seranen and Steve Roach. Yeah. And so it was the greatest tactical error. So they had to play the extra time, and of course the Raiders destroyed them in extra time.
But then the twist in it that came out a couple of weeks ago was the CEO of Canberra at the time, right? They were doing the crossbars. And they didn't know how high the crossbar was meant to be. So he goes to the groundsman, I'll ring the Sydney Football Stadium and how high they got it. Just put it up that high. They put it up that high. They find out that the crossbar was 4 inches too high, so Benny Elias's kick would have gone over.
They've never won a premiership. That was it, mate.
And this is the Canberra guy admitting it. So it's not
Crazy.
But it was just
But the greatest game of rugby league of all time.
the heyday, and went over to the 2011 grand final. I've sort of been. I never bought into the got to keep the faith sort of thing. I thought that always annoyed me a bit with the Warriors, and I run the captain's club out there each game, so I go out and interview sort of old players like your Ali Lauatiti. We've got Gordon Wiki in there this week, and it's great. It's sort of all the old cats and their kids who come along, and my son loves it. I take my son when he's 4 years old, a couple of years ago. Take him out and he goes, "Oh, Dad, so glad we beat those fucking Roosters." And I'm like, "Did you hear that?" And he's like, everyone's saying that. And where you go, "Geez, your intonation's perfect, mate." But I love going out, and because I love rugby league and I love watching it live.
Nice.
Yeah.
Because I love to hate Melbourne, but I'd always go to watch Billy Slater live because you never. What he did off the ball, you could only ever see live, floating around and running defence, running the whole defence. So I love that, and I'm also a game's a game. Yeah. That's why All Black fans need to harden the fuck up, mate, and lose more, because it's a game. I watch. I love it when we win. Yeah. But everyone is, they're not fucking trying. They are trying. Yeah, they're going out there. They train all week. They're not going out there to fuck it up.
No, that's it.
The thing is...
also dynasties come and go, and, sometimes you have great teams, sometimes you don't. That's just part of dynasties and fan and sport. Yeah, that's right. But I was going to throw Mick under the bus, but I think you probably what's your favourite? Do you have a favourite era for the Warriors?
Or
league?
My favourite player of all time was Lance Hire, actually. Weirdly, which is quite a strange player to pick.
He's a great player.
He's a great player.
I loved him because...
I'll tell you a quick story.
Stacey Jones set each other alight, eh? There's
do you know how it came about? So when I first came, we didn't have any money. Well, we literally had no money. So because I was a marketer from Kellogg's, I grabbed an advertising company. I think the guy that owned it, his name was Peter Scutts from Young and Rubicam, and we shot an ad. And I was out there, and we were doing this ad, and it's quite a famous ad for us at the Warriors, where Stacey's running in the dark. I didn't leave for more money. I didn't do this. I stayed for the Warriors. So we only needed about 10 people to do the shoot because we had no money, single camera, and we got all these kids from Auckland Rugby League, and one of these kids was this little guy, little stocky guy. He was about 17 or 18, and in between the breaks, I threw a ball to him, and he just pulled it straight back to me, and I was like, "What the hell?" And I did it again, and I said, "Can you go the other side?" and he did it the other side. It's a true story. And then I was like, can you kick inside out? Can you kick outside in? And he was doing everything. And I rang Matthew Ridge and I said, mate, you got to get down there and see this kid. And then ring Daniel Anderson. And Daniel's on the phone at home. He goes, oh, no, I'm not coming down. I'm tired. And he said, what's his name? And I said, what's your name, mate? And he said, his name's Lance Ohio. And he said, no, he's already in the system. Like that. He played in the grand final the next year. He was a freak kid. He just is like a lot of kids. Lance was a great player and achieved great things. He did. Lives in the States now. He's a great guy.
He coaches rugby union now.
He's an amazing guy. But it's funny. He for all the greatness he did, he probably should have been greater.
Yeah, why I liked him. There's very few players who could literally play every single position on the park.
He did too.
And he could do everything.
Played everywhere, man.
And I think I liked him because he was the archetypal like battler, as you say.
He was a great guy.
You know, like he never reached your Billy Slade, but he was there.
Came from the farm and
he was better than that though. He
was better than that.
Fast.
Yeah.
He had good
everything.
Speed off the mark, good skills.
Great guy too.
Tackle.
Yeah.
Like literally a great guy.
Did he get knocked out a few times at the end there?
He did at the end. That's how it ended. He actually got knocked out over in England.
Yeah.
The guy knocked him out and then punched his head in while he was unconscious. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That was horrendous.
Right.
But I'm a big New South Wales Blues supporter as well. Always have been. And going to my best rugby league situation was going to MCG with some mates to watch the State of Origin there.
Yeah.
And there's no rugby union or rugby league spectacle like State of Origin.
Awesome sporting event.
I got interviewed. I was playing in a test match in Australia up in Brisbane, and go out to get an interview after practice the day before the test. And I'm nervous, first time playing Australia, and who should be Wally Lewis walks over to me with the microphone, and he's working for one of the channels, and I'm like, and he's going, oh, hey Dion, do you mind if I grab a few? I was like, you're Wally Lewis. And I was like, I was just starstruck. I was standing there just going, oh my God. And all I just wanted to felt this like regurgitating all these things I've seen of Wally Lewis back to him. And he's just standing, and I was like, and then you took on Mike Guyer, and then the fight, and just try it. And he goes, and he looks at me and goes, yeah. Can I just get a few words?
But it's funny. It's funny. I know we're finished, but it's funny. Those hero stories, you know what I mean? I had a night on the piss with Mal Meninga.
Yeah. Oh.
And I was getting him to tell me stories, like he scored the greatest ever try for the Kangaroos after the bell against Great Britain when they're finally about to beat us. And Ricky Stewart throws a dummy and runs through. And Mal Meninga actually shoulders Doug Paddle the way and then comes inside and gets the ball over the line. But that wasn't the part that I couldn't believe. It didn't matter what I asked. He loved telling them. It was a big night. He fucking told them all night. He didn't stop. He just loved them. Anyway, what a great night.
No, hang on. One last thing. Cricket. Fucking, what about that final?
Oh.
You lost.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Sorry. Can you just stand down?
You
just stand down?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
As a massive Warriors and Black Caps fan, there was sort of a sense of...
Are you Catholic? Is there a bit of self-flagellation as well?
That happened.
Have you ever seen a game where...
I've never seen the ebbs and flows in a game like that.
It was a great game.
Where it came down. And I mean, you've got to feel, when I was talking about like our people not the Warriors, like you're not giving it your all and that. That's where I feel sorry for Guptill.
Yeah.
Well, when you have a tournament like that where nothing clicked and then you just happen to be involved in these pivotal moments.
And then everyone's like questioning whether he should have been in the last over, and it's like everyone's forgotten that Jimmy Neesham faced 5 balls and got us to within 2.
He's the guy I feel sorry for.
So Guptill hadn't even faced the ball, and all of a sudden he's going to go down there and hit 3 to win or whatever, 2 to win.
But you've got to feel for Jimmy Neesham, who basically won it.
Oh my gosh.
And then they did a count back, and the team with the most Guptills lost.
That's all. I've got everything I need. What a way to end. Die Henwood. Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Well done.
Hey, man. Awesome. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, yeah, no, that's why you got to have Monty on, because that was what he was telling me. He was saying, you got a lot of shit at the Warriors, but you they don't understand all the really good shit you did and how young you were, and people always focus on the bad. They don't realise all the amazing shit that came along and all the positives.
But we shouldn't let people forget that he like cooked the books, right? We shouldn't let that fly. That's got to, like, you know, he came in, did a great job, cooked the books and left.
I said, so someone said to me today, because obviously no one at work will have the guts to bring any of that up, and this documentary's just been on, you know, and the guy, his name's Andre, says to me today, hey, I just want to say, I watched that documentary the other night, and I said, oh, yeah. And he said, you know, the part 3. And I said, yeah. And he said, the salary cap. And I said, oh, yeah, I get it. And he said, yeah, you just came out and said, yeah, you know, this is what happened and that was me. And he said, but no one else said anything. And I said, no one else was. If you think you're worried about what they're going to say, like you imagine John Hart must have been like, what's that bald cunt going to say? Have you spoken to Watson yet? He would have been like that. Everyone fucking knew, mate. But you think all the blokes the players that get paid, they fucking know what's going on as well. Like, you know what I mean?
I don't believe any of this shit now where they're all, we don't. Well, your player manager knows exactly.
It's the same as that pot smoking in South Africa, right? 3 owned up, and we have to fucking live and tell the story over and over and over.
I mean.
There's a few other people there who never have to tell the fucking story, mate.
They're the ones I can't. They're the ones that really shit themselves the rest of their life.
No, but they're always stressed out.
That's what I'm saying.
People forget, man. Like,
when they said to me, so what can you say about the salary cap? I said, well, mate, it's a long time ago. I can't remember much about it. I said, you got to remember, I actually didn't get caught. It was the next blokes that got caught. We didn't send out the cheat. We went over the cap, and then you've got to pull back. So we had to get rid of Louis Anderson. We had to get rid of Harmy Lawaki, or whatever his name was. Had to get rid of Vinny Anderson. No, it was his brother, Epilami.
Yeah.
And so we had to get rid of them, and there was a few 2 tiers. We had to clean up some third-party sponsorship. And I said, but it was never about Steve Price and Ruben Wiki. I've never said that before. I just don't bother. And the guy's like, really? And I said, well, I didn't know that. I just signed them. How am I going to get them to do, you know, under the table deals? Yeah. It's everyone else.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, okay. So who knew? And I said, everyone knew. What do you mean? But I said, they probably, I don't know, they don't want to say it. I said, I'm happy to say it was me. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They rushed that last.
They rushed it.
That last one, those first 2 were like, oh, that's settling in. That last one was like,
no, because I really think that because I know I was like, fuck. So I'm like, who are you talking to? And they're like, ironically, we got John Hart next, and I was like, fuck, what's that kid going to say? And then I started to think over the next few weeks, well, it's human nature. If I'm thinking like that,
he's going to be thinking like that.
You talk about ball, can't you?
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Di. That was
No
magic,
worries.
mate. That was our best one. See?